What's going on, guys? It is MurderInc here, back with another Raid Shadow Legends video. Today we are going to be talking about how to one key any affinity, any difficulty with Tower and Sir Nicholas. On top of that, I'm going to be showing you how to guide the stuns, and what I did with that is I used Tower and Sir Nicholas. Usually you're going to be using Doom Priest if you want it to be every single affinity. However, if you want to make it a little bit trickier for yourself like I did, you can go Void only, get rid of Doom Priest, and use a damage dealer like Turvold, being really specific for the stats you put on each champion, who's going to get which buffs during which round, and things like that. So I'm going to go over that really quickly. I'm going to go over how to run the two teams, and I'm going to show you step by step from the setup how you can guide these stuns, and you can apply this to literally any clan boss team you have, knowing these few simple rules. So let's jump right into it. So the first thing I'm going to be doing today is I'm going to be showing you what this key does against the red affinity. Obviously, for any of you Dracomorph users, you know that red affinity is the worst possible affinity for a Dracomorph. So a few things have to happen to make this work properly. I have to know who is going to get stunned based on which setup I need to do. Now this is a 2-to-1 speed ratio team, which means that there is going to be a setup process. I'm going to have to delay Mashald. He is the key element here in making this a really quick speed unkillable team. However, it's going to take until turn 7 and turn 8 for me to hit that 2-to-1 ratio. So what happens in between there? This leaves vital champions like Nicholas+Tower the Tower being subject to getting stunned, and on top of that, this can desync the entire run. So what am I going to do? I have him geared so he is going to be focused over Dracomorph on taking these stuns, and I do have Doom Priest, so I have to calculate when Doom Priest is going to go in relation to Nicholas+Tower the Tower. So normally for this team composition, there is a 1-turn delay on using Nicholas+Tower the Tower's Unkillable. So what am I going to do? I'm going to stick with my 3-turn delay from Santa because he's going to be on a 3-turn, and I'm going to use my Unkillable first. This means that of the 2 times he's going to get stunned before everything goes into sync, one of them is going to be cleansed by Doom Priest, one of them he's just going to straight eat the stun. So what I'm doing right now is I'm actually using the clan boss stun mechanic to my advantage, knowing that instead of delaying a turn, which is required for this ratio, I'm going to use the cooldown early and let the clan boss sync my team for me by landing that problematic stun, but I'm taking that problem and making it a solution in a team composition like this one. So with that being said, all we really have to do is I have to go until turn 2, and then I have to use the Unkillable from Sir Nicholas, and then I can just hit auto here. So we're going to A1. We can just A1 with this guy. Let's throw on some poisons. And not only is Dracomorph at a disadvantage here, but so is Nicholas+Tower the Tower. He is in full damage gear, which will help him out. However, the fact that he's blue also, he's going to get weak hits, which is definitely going to be a problem going forward. So now that all of this is set, we are in turn 2. All I have to do is make sure that Santa uses his Unkillable buff here, and we will be free to auto this. So now let's watch closely as this stun comes up. As mentioned before, the stun target is going to be Nicholas+Tower the Tower. Now this would be a wipe condition for my team if I had stuck to the original plan on delaying his block damage cooldown by 1 turn. However, that is not the case here, so we do not have to worry about it. Now the next thing we have to do is we have to wait until the next stun, and after that stun we will be clear, and this will be on a 2-to-1 ratio speed tune team. It's going to be perfectly aligned, and then we'll go over the recap after that. So we are quickly moving on to this last rundown here. We saw the stun there, so now this is going to be on a 2-to-1 ratio. Starting in turn 7, all of the cooldowns will be perfectly aligned. We have that there, and obviously if you haven't noticed already, Doom Priest is doing a significant amount of damage, which is very crucial, and for anyone who runs the Painkeeper Maneater team, you know that it definitely struggles a ton on red affinity. The fact that we have Doom Priest here doing a ton of damage, as well as Mashald, who's an absolute monster in doing damage, it's really easy to outweigh that damage effect. As we can see here, we are now into the rotation. We have Doom Priest going first at the start of each round, so she will clear the stun no matter who it's on. Even if it's on herself, she will also clear any affinity at the start of each round, and everything will stay in sync. What I also did here is I have Sir Nicholas using his Unkillable first to make sure that everyone goes around with continuous heal on them for when we get to the later rounds. It heals them up a bit, and it gives them a chance to counterattack, increasing the damage overall for a team composition like this. So as we can see here, we are just about 4 rounds into this 2-to-1 ratio, and we are already moving up to doing over 1 million damage per turn, which is really good progression for the fact that we had over 6 rounds of setup before we could get to this speed tune. So now what we're going to do is we're going to jump to the end of this battle and go over the damage recap. Now that I went over that, I do want to go over the setup really quickly since it's in everyone's mind right now. So as mentioned before, if you are going to run this comp, when I do show you the speeds at the end of the video, you are going to always delay Mashald's A2 and A3 by 1 turn at the start. You are always going to delay Sir Nicholas's Unkillable by 3 turns at the start, which is going to be on turn number 2. That's very important to remember. And Rushguard the Tower is always going to be delayed by 1 turn. Now, the only time this changes, like mentioned in this example of the red affinity, is if you know a certain champion is going to be stunned, then you have to compensate the delay for the champion that is getting stunned. That's very important. Like we saw here, I knew Tower was going to get stunned twice, and one of the times he wasn't going to get cleansed. So what I did was I did not hold back and give him a delay in this rotation because I knew that the clan boss was going to delay it for me. The same thing applies on Void Affinity for Sir Nicholas. So what I want to show you here is the key that I did for Void Affinity with Sir Nicholas. Obviously Sir Nicholas is leader here. So Sir Nicholas was going to get stunned 2 times without getting cleansed on his rotation. So what does that mean for me? If I know he has a 3-turn delay and he's always going to get stunned twice, that means I'm only going to give him a 1-turn delay on Void Affinity, making this run even quicker off the bat. So how Void Affinity is going to work is you're going to delay Mashald by 1 turn, you're going to delay Tower by 1 turn, and Sir Nicholas by 1 turn. So they're both using their Unkillable at the same time. After doing that, you pretty much hit auto after you do your 1st turn delay on both of these champions, and you watch the rest of the run. And as we can see here, there's a very high damage yield from Void Affinity with this team in particular. Now the last thing I want to do, which was a lot of fun, and I can definitely say this was one of the most difficult things I've ever had to do in this game so far. I made this entire team, however I swapped Turvold with Doom Priest, so now I have nobody clearing debuffs. Obviously that means this will only work on Void, but I had to make sure for these 6 rounds the team wasn't synced. Dracomorph got stunned every single time. So I want to play you through this video I recorded of what I did here, and this was just so much fun to do. So Mashald has that 1-turn delay. Turvold, since he is a speed up champion, also has the 1-turn delay. So I used the poison first, and you see I used that A1 from Turvold. So this is where I use that speed up, and I use an A2 from Sir Nicholas. And now the key here is I do use the speed up with Turvold. Turvold works really well with Mashald because they both provide speed up. And what I did right there is really important. So right now Turvold does not have block damage, but Dracomorph does. So Turvold is going to take more damage from the clan boss. So what did I do to compensate for that? I used Santa's A2 ability, providing a shield, to make sure that Turvold did not lose any more health. Now let's watch this happen here. We're going to see this AoE come out, and as you can see, no one took damage but Turvold, and Turvold's shield did not break. So that's very important to keep in mind here. Now continuous heal goes on the boss. Dracomorph gets healed. Turvold uses his extra turn and gets 2 procs of the continuous heal here. So now Dracomorph is going to get stunned, being in that leader position simply because I used that Santa A2 to protect him in that crucial round. Shortly after that, I did hit auto just to watch this run. This will run flawlessly with that small tweak and change that I did make from the start. As long as Turvold stays healthy, everything is going to work out perfectly based on the continuous heal buffs that Santa is providing. So now this is another important thing to watch here, and let me show you how I compensated for this. On first glance, you're going to see that Turvold does not have full health and Dracomorph does. Now watch what happens on this stun. So the stun went on Dracomorph, and I want to ask you, do you know why? Think about it for a second, pause the video if you need to. Why do you think Dracomorph got stunned there? For those of you who don't know this, the stun is based on your champion's health. The clan boss does damage with his slam based on the health of the champion it's targeting. So what that means is I have to give Dracomorph more health than Turvold. So Dracomorph is always the target, being in the highest threat spot in this team order. Now what I mean by highest threat spot is this is where you put any champion with a leader aura for your team. If you don't know this already, that spot on your clan boss team generates the most amount of threat on the entire roster. There are definitely other factors to keep in mind. One other important thing to note on is any shields given to your champions will not affect who gets stunned. So you're going to see this throughout the match where Santa's going to use his A2. The shield's going to be on some champions, including Dracomorph, and it's not going to be on other champions. You're going to think to yourself, why would the clan boss target this? The clan boss is actually not picking up the shield as the champion's health. So it's pretty much disregarding the shield and just looking at the champion's health for base value. Now, another thing I did to make this run as flawless as possible is, since Tower and Santa do have very, very high health, which does give them a ton of threat, like a ton of threat. So what I did to counteract that is I gave Tower an immortal set on top of his speed gear. And for Santa, I used his cooldowns in a way where I can afford for one stun on Santa without the order being ruined. So that's very important. I had to do a lot of work to figure this out. And ideally, I do want Santa to use Unkillable on the first turn of his round. However, if I do plan it that way and he does get stunned, I am taking the defensive mastery that has a 25% chance of removing any stun debuff on this champion. So for some reason, if he gets stunned and that does not proc, I do have a one-turn failsafe based on how I built this team. So as you can see there, Santa Claus just used his Unkillable debuff, and now he's going to get a second turn. Since this is a 2-to-1 ratio, even if he uses it on his second turn, this whole team stays in sync. And it just so happens that in this run, Santa did get stunned once. So on top of that, I did not give Mashald any accuracy. If I did give him accuracy, everyone would fully heal with that leech debuff that he's constantly applying to the boss. So since I didn't give him accuracy, what did I do to ensure that Dracomorph always gets stunned? I gave all 4 champions the Life Drinker Mastery except for Dracomorph. So Dracomorph's only source of healing is going to be from Continuous Heal. That is his only source of healing. Outside of that, every other single champion is going to get raw damage and mastery procs once they're below 50%, which they will be at. Once Sir Nicholas starts using that Unkillable buff and everyone takes full damage, they are going to heal. Dracomorph isn't going to heal as much. Based on how much health I do have Sir Nicholas and Rushguard the Tower at, that's where we can run into a problem where if Santa doesn't crit, if he doesn't proc his masteries with that Life Drinker, he has a chance to, even though he has more overall health than these champions, to get targeted for the stun. Those of you who are curious, not that it really matters, but every single bar you see of health on these champions is the equivalent of 5,000 health. So every single dark line bracket you do see on your champion, just a fun fact for you, is 5,000 health. What you'll notice is if you are earlier in the game, you will see these light lines. If you do see those light lines, those are going to represent 1,000 health. So just for some clarification, in case you're interested and in case this can help you out when trying to guide your stun or just for overall general knowledge, there's that information for you. So 5,000 health. Now that we've gone over this and we've pretty much seen how this does work, let's skip to the end and look at the total damage recount for this. So as we can see here, 91.5 million damage on Void Affinity. My best key was 93.6 million damage on the Void Affinity. We do have 26.7 million damage from Dracomorph, 15.2 from Mashald, 7.3 from Rushguard, 7.8 from Sir Nicholas, and 34.4 million damage from Turvold. Completely auto team. This is the highest team that I've personally seen that was full auto. Obviously, there is the 100 million team that Napoleon Camembert did and the one that I did. However, both of those keys were manual, so as far as I know, 93.6 is the highest damage that I've seen in a key on full auto with very minimal setup at the start. So what I want to do now is very quickly, before I go over the gear and masteries of these champions, I do want to let you know that I'm going to be doing another video that's going to be on the Salad Eater comp. So for those of you who know, there's a Painkeeper team that uses 2 Man-Eaters, Painkeeper, Dracomorph, and Seeker. Now that is called the Batman Keeper, I believe, maybe Batman Forever. I know there's a ton of names for it, and it's just like the team I showed you earlier. That's every affinity, every single difficulty. However, there is a Mashald version, and like I said, the Salad Eater. I'm pretty sure the name is still up for grabs. I'm probably going to call it Salad Eater because everyone knows my salad. So what I want to tell you guys is definitely head over to Deadwood Jedi's channel. We worked a ton on this together. It was a lot of fun. He's a really smart guy. He definitely deserves more subs than he has. And it would really be doing me a huge favor if you would go over to his channel, subscribe to his channel, and wait for that video. I'm going to be doing a video right after his, but I want to make sure that he gets that video out first. That's really important to me. So please show your support and make sure when that video drops, you comment on it, say MurderInc sent me here. Really hyped to see this team because I know he put in a lot of work in making this Mashald work, and we were on Discord for a long time. He's a ton of fun to talk to, and while we were both making both of these teams, even the one with Turvold, he helped me out a lot. So huge shout out to Deadwood Jedi. Had a ton of fun working with him, and I look forward to all of the cool things we can do in the future. Now that I plugged that in, let's get straight into these champions, how I geared them. So I have pretty good gear on all of these champions. Some of them aren't that special, like Sir Nicholas here. There's nothing too impressive. 247 crit damage, 103 crit rate. The thing to take away from here is you want 253 speed on your first unkillable champion. So for me, it's Sir Nicholas. Now this will work with double Sir Nicholas. This can work with double Tower. So you do have lots of options. One thing to note is Sir Nicholas, I don't have his A2 fully booked. If this is fully booked, you will have to manual for longer because he will overlap his A2 and his A3, which will be a complete nightmare for you if you try to figure this out on your own. So I recommend that you auto until your team's taking damage. Everyone's health is going all the way down to 0, slowly healing back up from his continuous heal. That's when you know it's safe to auto. So you're pretty much looking at a 3-minute window before you can hit auto, which really isn't that much time considering that you only have to do 1 key a day. So there's a pretty good trade-off there. If you want to use double Tower, nothing really changes. All you have to do is stick with the delays. Consider what I said about the stuns and the affinities, making sure you know which tower. If you have 2 towers, is going to get stunned, so you don't choose the wrong one and the wrong one gets stunned. What you can do is make the one you want to get stunned have the most health. As mentioned before, the stun is health based when the clan boss is picking a target. So those are the stats for Sir Nicholas. 253 speed is the important takeaway, and everyone's masteries once again is the same. We do have War Master here. I did take the increased damage when the health is low. We have the chance to counterattack and the chance to counterattack with the stun. So this is one perk to the Mashald teams the Seeker teams do not have. When you are running Man-Eater with Seeker, you don't have the opportunity to counterattack, and that can definitely add up. So after all of the testing I've done, if I had to say, the 2 best unkillable champions in the game to pair together would be 2 Sir Nicholas. That allows a healthy counterattack every single time, regardless, and it lets everyone get stunned to where everyone else on the team has that opportunity to get in a counterattack. If you're going to choose to do the Turvold variation, which I would be very careful if you're going to approach this, because like I said, you have to make sure you guide the stun on the same target. For me was Dracomorph every single time without failing. And the speed on this champion is going to be 195, so these speeds are significantly lower as well than the Seeker teams. We have 279 crit damage, 97 crit rate, could be 100, so my RNG is a bit off there. We have 5,400 attack on this champion. He has really good gear. If you want to know more about the gear that he's using, I pretty much use the same gear in all of my videos, so if I do skip through any of this, you can definitely go to a previous video. As mentioned before, the masteries that Santa has are the same for every other champion. Moving on to the second unkillable champion, Rashkar the Tower. His speed is 227, so rather low if you think about an unkillable team. 240 crit damage, 100 crit rate, 5,500 health, 3,400 attack, which is A1 is attack based. His A2 is health based, so I did build both of those. And as I mentioned before, he isn't in the most optimal setup for the every single affinity, every difficulty team. He does have an immortal set for that difficult team that I made. Ideally, I would swap this around, and that key that went just over 70 million damage would be significantly higher on red affinity if I really did gear rush guard the tower with more attack and more damage instead of this HP immortal set, probably using something like a cruel set instead. Now obviously we have our MVP here. We have Mr. Dracomorph, quickly running through his gear, showing you what he's using. And as we can see from the total stats here, we have 202 speed. So this is the speed for the slowest champion on the team, which really gives a lot of value if you are using your Dracomorph in this team. You can also use him in dungeons. He doesn't have to be in relentless gear like in other comps to really get that one key damage. All you have to do is give him 202 speed. You can go higher, you cannot go lower on this speed, unfortunately. 255 crit damage, 4900 attack. Once again, this champion is also a bit skewed as far as the every affinity, every difficulty team. I do have his health a bit higher and survivability a little bit higher because I had to guide his stun for that Turvold team, but gives you a lot more freedom. Also, his accuracy is a little lower than I would personally like for Ultra Nightmare. This does lower his consistency significantly and will prove a problem overall, and definitely does affect my damage. Now the second to last champion we do have is the fastest champion on this team. It's going to be My Salad. Now he is obviously wearing 6 pieces of speed gear. He is the fastest speed. He has 254 speed, so 1 speed higher than Santa. Now if you want to know on a quick tip, and Deadwood Jedi is going to go over this as well as the video I'm going to make next. Every single Mashal 2-to-1 team, as you will see from Deadwood Jedi's website if you haven't been there already, is going to be 254, 253. You can even run 253, 252, or 252 and 251. So there's always going to be a 1 speed difference there. That's never going to change. The highest threshold you can move around are going to be the lower speed champions, which can go from 186 to 194, I believe. So there's a lot of playroom if you're looking for certain gear sets, and you don't have to worry about your whole team desyncing. So we do have 230% crit damage, 100 crit rate, 254 speed as mentioned, and 4600 attack and 111 accuracy because we don't want that leech debuff. We want Dracomorph to get all of the poisons he possibly can on this clan boss. Final champion we have today is Doom Priest. She is in full damage gear, which is why she was critting for 160k. Now, she is the sleeper champion in this entire composition. If you don't know this already, Doom Priest is probably the best clan boss champion as far as clearing debuffs go. If you can tune your team for where she goes first every single round, there's no one that can compete with her, especially in an unkillable environment that's not using man-eaters. She does a ton of damage. She's at 190 speed, 3900 attack. She does have very low base attack, but it scales extremely well. 224 crit damage. There's a lot of work that can be done there. A lot of Turvold's gear is supposed to be on Doom Priest right now, so these stats are a bit skewed, and she can do a lot more damage with that all affinity any difficulty team if she is properly geared. Alright guys, as always, thanks a ton for watching. I'm really looking forward to going over that Salad Eater team with 2 man-eaters, Mashald, Painkeeper, and Dracomorph. Make sure you go, like I mentioned before, subscribe to Deadwood Jedi. Check out his video on what I'm talking about first. I'm going to release one after. Don't forget, if you like this content, subscribe, turn on the notification bell so you don't miss my next upload, and I will see you all in that next video.